Well, welcome to Fake News, our regular contrast with what our elites are saying and what the reality is. Last week, Treasurer Jim Chalmers delivered a budget that adds $110 billion to government spending to a debt approaching $1 trillion. Now, to help ease the cost of living crisis that he helped create, he's handing you $300 of borrowed money. We're supposed to be happy. A $170 million advertising campaign informing us of the tax cuts for everyone is supposed to provide us further relief, but the reality is that inflation has ratcheted up, bracket keep has gone through the roof, pushing millions of Australians into higher tax brackets, which means we won't see much of any of Jim Chalmers' economic sunshine. Now, with a straight face, he says his big spending budget is not inflationary. Well, former Howard Government Treasurer Peter Costello has a very different view. In a speech this week, he observed the following, quote, "Are payments going up? Yes. Is the bottom line deteriorating? Yes. Is debt increasing? Yes. So on any measure, this is a budget that is stimulatory and will add rather than detract from inflation," end quote. Now, these are basic questions which expose the folly of Chalmers' approach. Chalmers and Costello can't both be right. Chalmers talks about a new economic orthodoxy. It's almost as if spending less than you earn no longer matters. In Chalmers' world, there are no consequences. But Costello's realism stands in stark contrast. Again, he says, quote, "We are now in a term of trade boom. We are living through the greatest trading conditions Australia has had in its history. The only thing that could rival it is the gold rush of the 1850s. The things we trade, iron ore, coal, gas, are at all-time record prices," end quote. Now, Australians struggling to pay their electricity and grocery bills and fill up the car with petrol probably don't think this because they are not seeing the benefits of this modern-day gold rush. But they could if government used the wealth wisely. Costello again. "So we are in this boom, and in terms of a boom, you should be paying off debt. I think we ought to be out on financial markets, retiring debt, both for macroeconomic and financial reasons. The tools to tackle inflation are principally fiscal policy and, I would say, energy policy. A lot of this inflation has been driven by rising energy prices, and the government is introducing a rebate to try and bring that down," end quote. So let's just decode this. For ordinary Australians, to benefit from this terms of trade bonanza, government must focus on getting the structural issues of the budget right. Inflation and cost of living will come down if government reduces spending and retires debt. That's what Costello is saying. We have a wealth bonanza because of strong terms of trade, and yet our debt is set to balloon to $1 trillion. $300 handouts are not a long-term solution. Then there is the transition to renewables, which is what is forcing the price of electricity up. And of course, the price of everything goes up if the price of electricity goes up. Here's Costello again, and I quote, "But this transition to renewables is itself inflationary, and it's got a long way to run. We've got to be very, very careful here that we don't saddle ourselves with a long-term higher energy prices because they really will be inflationary," end quote. Now, not only are energy prices going through the roof because of the expensive rollout of wind and solar and the incredible kilometres of transmission lines, some 28,000 kilometres needed to get to dispersed energy sources all over our pristine countryside. The energy market operator, in addition to all of this, is again warning of summer blackouts. Now, our Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, that's a misnomer if ever I've heard one, he dismisses this as a emo, again crying wolf, because predicted blackouts didn't happen last summer. Now, that's because if you remember back to last summer, we had an unusually cool summer. So much for global boiling, but I digress. Now, a normal summer this year will change that, and hence AEMO is warning that the electricity grid is under great stress because of the removal of reliable coal-fired power generation from the system and the replacement of it with unreliable wind and solar. So Chris Bowen, Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese are living in a parallel universe to that of reality. Their view that high spending, high debt and more renewables will lead us to the sunlit uplands of economic prosperity is this week's fake news.